Coming up, hat tricks were the difference for the Wild and Sabres on Sunday night. This is Locked On Game to Game NHL.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game NHL. Local experts joining us to go over the biggest stories on the ice. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. The Islanders' defense made it easy on Semyon Varlamov on Sunday night. He only needed to save 23 shots to get a shutout win over the Jets in Winnipeg. Locked On hosts from both teams go over that dominant performance from New York.
The New York Islanders down the Winnipeg Jets 4-0. Semyon Varlamov coming up big. I'm Gil Martin of Locked On Islanders. And the Islanders played a very strong, fundamental defensive game, only allowing one shot on goal in the first period. And a shorthanded goal by Bo Horvat turned out to be all they needed. Semyon Varlamov, 23 saves to earn the shutout. And this is the kind of game that the Islanders are capable of playing. They only allowed a handful of quality scoring chances, and yet when they had the chance to score, they cashed in. Both teams ended up with 23 shots on goal on the opposing goalie. One empty net goal for the Islanders added into the mix, but overall, when the Islanders play strong fundamental defense, they are capable of winning against good teams on the road, and they showed that Sunday in Winnipeg. For more, listen to and watch the Locked On Islanders podcast with me, Gil Martin, wherever you get your podcasts.
On the back of a great trade announcement of Nino Niederreiter for a second-round pick, you'd hope that the Jets would follow it up with a big win against the Islanders to stem the bleeding. Instead, the Jets lost 4-0 and looked, again, offensively incompetent and really lacking in finishing threat, despite the fact that the Jets generally got to pretty good areas when they finally did create opportunities. A really frustrating game, a really frustrating loss, and while Bowden's and some of the players have said they've seen progress and good steps, it still feels woefully insufficient if the Jets are to continue holding on to a top seed in the Central. They're now slipping into a wild card spot, and things are feeling not so great. So let's hope for a big trade deadline and hopefully a better result of wins this week as the Jets try and get back into the Central Division top 3. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Locked On Jets on your favorite podcasting platform of choice to follow up on all of the latest Jets trades. For now, thanks for listening. I am your host, Harrison Lee. I'll see you there on Locked On Jets tomorrow, and have a great night. Go Jets, go.
Kirill Kaprizov finished a hat trick Sunday night with the overtime game winner for the Minnesota Wild against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Locked On Wild recaps that thriller and a huge night for Minnesota's young star.
The Wild needed every penny that dollar bill Kirill had to offer in this one as they beat the Blue Jackets in overtime. Hey everybody, Seth Topal, host of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, recapping a 3-2 overtime win for the Wild today against Columbus. The Wild trailed heading into the third period 2-0 after a couple of early goals off of turnovers right in front of Marc-Andre Fleury, but Kirill Kaprizov gets the first goal to get things started. He then adds a power play goal and the overtime winner, giving him the hat trick and giving the Wild their first multi-goal comeback win of the season. And so on a day in which it looked like the Wild had nothing to give, Kirill Kaprizov worth every penny here today. For more on the Minnesota Wild, make sure you're following Locked On Wild wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Coming up, the Predators pull away from the Coyotes in the third. This is Locked On Game to Game NHL. Today's edition of Locked On Game to Game is brought to you by Athletic Greens. This is a product I use literally every day. I started taking AG1 to help with my immune system and keep myself healthy. It works with whatever diet you are on, gluten-free, vegan, dairy-free. It's important that you include a multivitamin in your diet. AG1 makes that really easy for you to do. Right now, it is time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your own health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Welcome back. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game NHL. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you once again for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. The Predators scored 3 unanswered goals in the third period to pull away and comfortably beat the Coyotes in Arizona. Our host with Locked On Predators goes over that victory.
After a shocking 24 hours for the franchise, the Nashville Predators won an emotional game tonight over the Arizona Coyotes by a score of 6-2. Hi, everyone. I'm Ann Kimmel from Locked On Predators. Roman Josi scored 2 goals, and Matt Duchene and Tommy Novak each recorded a goal and 2 assists in the 6-2 win over the Coyotes. The Predators team that took the ice tonight looked a bit different than it has recently. The Predators recalled forward Zach Sanford in place of the injured Juuso Parssinen, and Alexander Carrier returned after his January 24th injury had him missing the last 10 games for the team. This was also Nashville's first game this season without Nino Niederreiter, who was traded yesterday to the Winnipeg Jets. And the trades are apparently not done, as Tanner Jeannot, who warmed up with the team before tonight's game in Arizona, was pulled just before puck drop for trade-related reasons. All of this comes as General Manager David Poile announced today he is retiring effective June 30th, and former Predators head coach Barry Trotz will take his place. Trotz is reportedly also working with Poile, which means that even after a solid 6-2 win tonight, there is no telling what this Nashville roster will look like when they take the ice against the Pittsburgh Penguins on Tuesday night.
The Sabres scored 7 goals in front of a sold-out crowd in Buffalo, with Dylan Cozens' first career hat trick leading the way. Locked On Capitals looks at what went wrong for Washington.
Washington Capitals lose to the Buffalo Sabres by a score of 7-4. Hi, this is Dan Holme of Locked On Capitals. Well, this is a team that lost 6 games straight. And then just last night, they were able to find a way to beat the New York Rangers. And then today, they lose to the Buffalo Sabres. That is the tough thing about this team going forward, is consistency and them able to string together wins. This was a team that saw a frustrated Darcy Kemper out there as he threw his helmet down on the ice and broke his stick in frustration. Caps saw goals from TJ Oshie, Dylan Strome, Sonny Milano, and Alex Ovechkin. Darcy Kemper saved 14 of 19, and Charlie Lindgren came in out of the bullpen and saved 16 of 18. That is the tough thing for this Caps team going forward. Are they going to be buyers? Are they going to be sellers? Are they going to even compete for the playoffs, or are they going to miss the playoffs for the first time since 2014? So many questions for Brian McClellan to answer. It's ultimately my assessment that this team is going to be sellers at the trade deadline, as they have a hard time stringing together any types of wins. And the wins and losses now, and the margin for error is razor fine. Keep it locked to Locked On Capitals, and I will keep you updated on all the news with your Washington Capitals. Locked On Capitals, your team every day.
That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Game to Game NHL. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Make sure you are subscribed to Locked On NHL and your favorite team's Locked On podcast on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts from. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.